Hello and welcome to this edition of Conservative Arkansas Media. My name is Paul Harrell. Thank you so much for being with us. We got a special treat. Now, since we've been doing these segments, I am particularly interested in somebody's legislative experience. So we just finished the legislative session, a couple of months ago. So we didn't just finish it. As a matter of fact, some of these laws are going to start going into effect here very, very soon. But when you're a freshman state representative or state senator, but that's very rare, I always like to kind of reach out to these freshmen and get their take on what the legislative process was like and how it went. And so I reached out to Republican State Representative Bart Schulz, and he joins us now. State Representative Schulz, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, so what can you tell us about your freshman experience down at the Capitol in Little Rock?
Well, it was a wonderful experience. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean that can be overwhelming. I remember going there in the fifth grade with Arkansas history and just thinking, like the things you see on TV. Wow, I never thought I'd be working there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I can't say enough good about the more senior members of the legislature, the staff that works in the House, everybody for just bending over backwards to teach us new folks. They were patient with us. It was just a wonderful session.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think? What were some of the top bills that you were excited to vote for? You were excited to see, become laws.
Well, I mean, obviously the Learns Act was a huge thing. To be quite honest, it was scary because it was such a big bill. Right here at my freshman term. But that's exciting, and now that it's going into law, teachers are getting really good raises. There's with all bills, especially something of this magnitude, there's probably going to be some stuff that's going to take some work. But that's something that just kind of sticks in my mind, simply because that was the biggest bill that we had. Now there's a lot that were on my radar that I was excited about. I work in the ambulance industry, so we make great strides this time in that part of the world, the ambulance world. I'm also a fifth generation farmer, so there were some good things that went through for Arkansas farmers. I spent 12 years on the Sharp County Quorum Court prior to becoming a state representative. So anything city, county, local type stuff, there were just a lot of things that I was trying to follow.
Yeah. So your House District 28, it consists of Sharp County and any other counties?
It's roughly half of Sharp, roughly half of Independence, roughly half of Stone, and a little over half of Lawrence.
Okay.
Very rural district, a lot of farm country.
So now that the session's over, and a lot of people have had time to digest the laws that were passed, what do your constituents think about the laws that were passed to protect children from the LGBT enclave, if you will?
I think the vast majority support them. They think they're good. I mean, I'm all about people live their life as they choose to, but children don't need to be indoctrinated, I guess would be the right term. I mean, children just need to be children, and when you're adult, make the decisions you need or want to make. But children need to be innocent.
I completely agree. And that's why I really thought, to me, these were my number one issues when I was, covering this. I was looking at what people were going to do, what you guys were going to do, to protect children, because things have just gotten so out of control. The slippery slope is real. And I mean, we're in a toboggan, going 60 miles an hour down it. That's what it feels like. And yet, Arkansas is not an anomaly here, though. You have I'm calling them Christian red states because that's essentially what's going on. People when they're legislators, I saw it here in Arkansas when they were going down to the well to advocate for these bills, they were referencing God, they were referencing Scripture as a reason why we have to protect our kids, and this is happening not just in Arkansas but everywhere. Conservative Christian red states, as I've been calling them, and it's to me so encouraging that we're seeing this happen. Because every corporation is saying the same thing. Every professional sporting event is essentially saying the same thing. We're here at the very tail end of Pride Month. Pride is a sin, by the way, and yet people are in what little bit of states' rights we have left. We're passing laws that are going to protect kids, and I just think it's a very positive thing. And it doesn't remind me because I wasn't alive back then, but feel free to respond to this. So back in 1973, when Roe versus Wade came down, the nation was at that time engaged in a debate. What is abortion? Does life begin at conception? And we were having this debate, and then the Supreme Court came in and basically kneecapped all of us and said, "No, you're not going to have the debate. It's legal." And it's legal in every state in the union. Well, we're having a similar debate now. There's this new trans ideology. I call it a woke sex religion that they have, and they've infiltrated the schools. That's why the LEARNS Act, I think, is also very good because we're going to just teach kids the goal of the LEARNS Act. Governor Sanders did an excellent job articulating those points. But we're in the midst of this national debate, and I don't think the Supreme Court is going to come and kneecap us this time and say, no, you have to allow a minor to have a surgery or something. This is a completely, genital mutilating surgery. So I think we're in a really good spot. As bad as everything is, I find it encouraging that local legislatures, local state representatives like you are doing what the people want and are representing essentially their disgust with the immorality that's all around us.
Excuse me. Well,
sorry, that was a mouthful. Go ahead.
First, that all kind of ties right in. It's exciting to be alive in Arkansas because we have an overwhelming supermajority of conservatives in the state. That's a wonderful thing. It wasn't that long ago we were completely on the opposite side. I am unwaveringly pro-life. That's something I just will not debate with people. Life begins at conception, and I'm proud of what we're doing as a state. It's just a great time to be in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to it was your freshman year. You the legislative process. What's it like learning? And I know you guys don't use Robert's Rules of Order. You use the other one. It escapes me right now. But what's it like learning all of that parliamentary procedure? Did you know any of that from your experience on quorum court already?
I did. I think that gave me a little bit of a leg up from all my years on quorum court, and that piece of it went pretty smoothly for me. I mean, there's plenty other things you have to learn, so I'm glad I didn't have to pick all that up from scratch as well.
Yeah. Okay, so then you also you mentioned the LEARNS Act. You also had the prison reform, where we're now going to make criminals, especially if they're violent, serve a majority of their sentence instead of just having this revolving door. One of the things that Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in her inaugural address is that releasing, I think she said, unreformed, unrepentant criminals back onto the streets is not compassionate. And I feel like that kind of framed the criminal justice reform that we saw as well. What do you think?
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm all for rehabilitating people, but we have to be equipped to deal with crime. Turning violent offenders out early because we're out of room, that's unacceptable in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Also, and I know I'm just kind of ping-ponging around here, and I really appreciate you indulging me. So today, as of this broadcast, so today's June the 29th. So this morning, the Supreme Court of the United States essentially ruled against Harvard and said that you can't discriminate. Basically, affirmative action is over, at least when it comes to college admissions. I don't know if you saw the news, that news, but what I found was interesting. There was an attempt by State Senator Dan Sullivan to get rid of affirmative action policies within the state government, and it was unsuccessful. But one of his arguments was the Supreme Court is likely to go ahead and already do this in the coming months. He was proven right. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, these three justices that Donald Trump put on the court, I mean, they continue to pay dividends.
Well, I'm glad we've got a conservative Supreme Court. I'm happy with most of the decisions they're making. I'm no expert. I think Arkansas will kind of fall in line with that, or I hope they do.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I just find it fascinating. Okay, so last question. We were talking about how it's a great time to be alive in Arkansas. But what, and we may have already covered this. But what do you think is the number one issue that's facing Arkansas that needs to be addressed, maybe in the next session?
Well, it's hard to identify just one, but I think Governor Hutchinson did a good job bringing jobs to Arkansas, and I think Governor Sanders is going to continue that. But with the jobs, we have to have affordable housing. I know we've got an influx of folks moving in from other states, which is a wonderful thing. But we're going to have to address where they're going to live. We're going to have to address. I feel like prime farmland's being gobbled up.
Yep.
For housing. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that's something we're going to have to look at, because farming is inherently a huge part of Arkansas. And if we're using all of this prime farm real estate for housing, or, well, even solar arrays or whatever the case may be, we got to figure out a way to balance that. And I think that's something we're really going to have to look at this next time.
Yeah, and not to mention on that, and I know this is maybe a slightly different issue, but I mean, there are just thousands, 7 million illegal immigrants that have streamed across our border this year. They're going to have to live somewhere, right? Until we can actually secure the border. Where are they living? Well, in some instances, there are reports that the Mexican drug cartels have been able to buy land legally in Texas. And they have set up and built homes and communities, and they police. And essentially, I don't know if you remember the no-go zones, the horror stories about radical Islamists in London, over in the United Kingdom. But the police wouldn't even go to those areas, the London police, the actual government. Mm-hmm. And that's now happening in places in Texas. I think it's Liberty County, Texas, is where this is going on. And so there's a lot of that kind of thing. I mean, I would respectfully disagree about Asa Hutchinson and jobs, just because he was constantly trying to get the Communist Chinese to, make deals with the Communist Chinese. But I would say it was encouraging that Governor Sanders isn't taking trips that I know of to China. She's taking trips, over to Europe, which is a lot better off with me. If we're going to look for these economic development deals, which I'm not a huge fan of, because I don't like giving taxpayer money to big business. But anyway, but yeah, there's the farmland thing is certainly interesting, and we need to not allow foreign governments or Mexican drug cartels, or Bill Gates for that matter, to buy up all of our farmland.
I agree with that. I mean, prime farmland needs to continue to be farmland. We've got to feed the world.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And feed ourselves. State Representative Bart Schulz, we really appreciate you coming on Conservative Arkansas Media. We really do, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. We'll do it again soon. Folks, that's all the time we have for this edition of Conservative Arkansas Media. My name is Paul Harrell. Sound off in the comments on the face. Share this post, and we'll see you next time.